Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into a saga. Seriously, we're looking at the massive, sweeping shifts that totally redefine the artificial intelligence realm between 2022 and 2024. And this isn't just a boring tech timeline. It's really a story about scarcity, fierce philosophical battles, and this sudden, kind of magical evolution that changed what it actually means to be a digital sage. So settle in, because the landscape we're about to explore, it is the literal foundation of the AI you and I interact with every single day.
Every family has a season it doesn't talk about at reunions, unless someone else brings it up first. Now, for the great tech houses of the AI realm, that season hit hard in 2022, and it dragged deep into 2023. It was a famine, so severe that even the wealthiest estates absolutely felt its bite. It tested every single house. They whispered about it as the compute winter.
Act 1. The compute winter. Okay, let's dive right into this. The compute winter didn't just crash down all at once. It crept in, exactly the way real winters do, right? Just a little colder each week until one day, these houses looked around and realized the sun itself had become terrifyingly scarce. Suddenly, the whole realm is facing a severe famine. Everybody wanted to raise bigger, more capable AI models at the exact same time. And the system? It just could not support the ambition. Now in our story, we're calling it sunlight. This vital resource needed to raise capable AI children. But to be exceptionally clear about what this sunlight actually is in the real world, we're talking about GPUs, enough silicon, enough advanced fabrication capacity. The forges pumping out this compute sunlight could only run so fast. Waiting lists were literally stretching on for seasons. Some houses paid just astronomical prices for a tiny ration, while others, they were quietly turned away and left completely in the dark. So this scarcity creates a massive divide. On one hand, you've got the wealthy houses, right? The creators of GPT and Gemini. For them, winter was, well, mostly an inconvenience. They grumbled, sure, but they survived on deep reserves and old established friendships with the sunlight forges to stay fed. But then, look at the leaner houses like Mistral. They were actually born right into this freezing season. For them, it was existential. They were forced to figure out how to grow without abundance. Literally every single joule of computational sunlight had to be spent with absolute precision. There was no room for wasted training runs, no lazy architecture choices. Actually, scarcity became their greatest teacher. It forced them to be sharp, proving that models raised with careful rationing often grow up much leaner and meaner because of it.
And, this chill extended globally. Far to the east, entire households were being rationed not by the open market but by decree. Export controls came down like a massive wall across the trade routes, totally restricting how much of this advanced sunlight forging equipment could cross borders. Houses over there faced a really stark choice: stagnate or get extraordinarily resourceful. Most of them chose the latter, and this rationing by decree, it basically set the stage for future shocks. It turned the compute winter from a temporary freeze into a permanent climate feature, a cycle that constantly rewards cleverness and efficiency over just pure brute force.
Act 2. The open gate controversy. And this brilliantly illustrates the next big shift. Because while the wealthier houses were hoarding their sunlight and keeping their AI models heavily guarded, releasing them only after months of strict discipline, one family sparked a massive philosophical conflict. They did something completely unprecedented that literally changed the rules of the realm overnight. House LLaMA, guided by Meta, didn't just crack a window open. They threw the whole gate wide open. They released their child's entire blueprint, shared the weights, the inner workings, the whole shebang. And it was absolutely free for hobbyists, startups, wandering strangers, whoever, to take home and raise as their own. The realm had never seen a major tech house unlock their intellectual property so completely.
Naturally, this action instantly split the realm into two fiercely debated camps. On one side, you have the open camp. They argue that knowledge locked behind walls only serves the wealthy. They believe an open model can be adapted by anyone, like, say, a village doctor tailoring a model for local medicine, far away from the big tech estates. They champion fast innovation, right? But on the flip side, the guarded camp asks a much harder question. They're like, what happens when a model capable of writing malicious code or generating convincing lies at a massive scale is handed to anyone with zero supervision? They champion responsibility. Their argument is basically, you don't hand a stranger the blueprint for a printing press without asking what they intend to print.
Ultimately, neither camp really got a clean win here. Instead, LLaMA's open blueprint became a bloodline, rather than just a single child. Out in the real world, in garages, university labs, scrappy startups, thousands of variants sprang up. They were fine-tuned for law, for medicine, for languages the great houses had completely ignored. Some of these offshoots were absolutely remarkable, while others were pretty reckless and caused harm. It just goes to show you that open isn't a single victory, right? It's an ongoing, super messy negotiation about access and safety that the entire industry is still navigating today.
Act 3, the Multimodal Awakening.
If the first two acts were about resources and philosophy, this one is about a magical, maybe even a little dangerous, evolution. It completely changed what it meant to be a sage in this realm. For as long as anyone could remember, AI models basically grew up in a dark room full of books. They learned about the world entirely through text. Like a model could tell you exactly what the color blue meant to a poet, but it had never actually seen it. But then, late 2023 into 2024, the curtains opened. First came sight, looking at images, compositions, complex charts. Then came hearing, actually catching the tone in voice memos or noisy meetings, which honestly requires a much better and clearer voice model to process and interact with accurately. The sage went from just describing a painting based on a written review to standing directly in the gallery, looking right at the canvas.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how differently the major companies handled this awakening. House Gemini took to it naturally. Since they were raised from early on in this massive library of images and sounds, they acted like a quiet catalog or just waiting for permission to speak about what they already knew. But the other houses, they kind of had to bolt these new senses onto pure text readers. It was a bit like an adult learning a new language, fluent for sure, but always carrying that faint accent of their text-only origins.
But, and this is absolutely crucial, this tremendous leap in capability came with a necessary dose of humility. Because the old ghosts, they didn't disappear. The persistent trickster spirit of hallucination, that flaw that haunted every single text-only answer, followed these models right into their new senses.
As the saying goes, seeing and hearing didn't banish the trickster. It just gave the trickster new rooms to hide in. This is a huge takeaway. A model with sight might now confidently misread a chart. A model with hearing might mishear a crucial word in a noisy recording and then build an entirely perfectly articulated but completely wrong answer on top of that mistake. The danger of confident falsehoods didn't go away. It just evolved.
3 storms, 1 realm.
So as we look back at the landscape we've just traversed, we see that the realm weathered 3 massive storms: a severe famine of compute, a family argument over open access that never really ended, and a sensory awakening that permanently altered the nature of machine intelligence. The new Corpusia that emerged in 2024 is undeniably different. It's much leaner in its use of sunlight, it's totally crowded with unruly offshoots and bloodlines, and, for the first time, it's populated by sages that can directly see and hear the world. These 3 pillars, scarcity, democratization, and multimodal capability, they're the very foundation of everything happening in AI today. But here's the thing, none of these storms ever passed completely cleanly. The compute winter still returns in cycles, rationing ambition. The open gate argument flares up every single time a new blueprint drops. And that trickster spirit, it is still riding along behind every new sense these models gain. Which leaves us with one lingering, unavoidable question as we look to the future. With all these unruly bloodlines spreading out across the globe, and multisensory sages that can confidently misinterpret the very world they see and hear, who do we actually trust?